Hello everyone, welcome back to my video. I'm Nono, and in today's video we're going to look at reading part 6, which is going to be the question number 3 and 4 from last week's video, and other extracted paragraphs from the main passage. Okay, so let's get into it.
So let's take a look at question number 3. Pause this video right here because we need some time to read the question and then the options and to give your own answer. And after that, this one is question number 4. Okay, so after we have looked at the questions, we need to go back to the paragraphs to locate the answers. Okay, so this is paragraph number 1 and number 2. All right. So let's go and take a look at question number 3. The question says, his thoughts turn towards going to sleep because his thoughts turn towards sleeping, going to sleep because, like, this is going to be the intention. What does that mean? The question. What does the question mean? Because the question says he stopped thinking about what he was doing. He stopped doing what he was doing at the moment and he thought about going to sleep. So this is what happened. This is the question, what the question means. And the options are number A, he knew that he was unlikely to get much in the near future. What does that mean to you? Number B, he had been left mentally exhausted by becoming a parent, according to the paragraph and the question. Are they relevant? Number C, he had become wary of his action being criticized. So this is an autocorrect here, but we can fix it later. He had become wary of his actions being criticized. What does this mean? Again, so is he being judged? Is he being criticized? Or is he just being part of a really important group that he has to stress out about because everybody else is going to rely on him or just his decisions? What does it mean? Number D, he felt that that was what many of the turtles probably wanted to do. Does this paragraph, the paragraph related to the location of your selected answer, related to this one, to the turtles? Let's find out. Okay, so this one is going to be the first paragraph. Remember, we have to always start from the beginning until we find the location of the answer. Now, most people do that. The first paragraph is going to be for question number 1, second paragraph, question number 2, third paragraph, question number 3. It doesn't work like that. So we have to be very careful. That's why we have the strategy to like really locate the answer by skimming, scanning, and reading in detail. So this is like um, my technique I have talked about in the earlier part of the video and reading part 5. Okay, so this is going to be the number 1 paragraph according to this part. Okay, so since you guys have already gone through all of this in the post part of the video, we will skip ahead and go straight to the location of the answer. So, at the present moment, the balance of his own inclinations tilted more towards sleep. This sentence literally means the same as the question statement. The question statement simply says, in a very basic and simple way, not basic but simple way, it says, his thoughts turn towards going to sleep. Right here, the balance of his own inclinations tilted more towards sleep. They literally mean the same. So we have to understand that at the present moment means right now, according to the paragraph and the situation happening in the paragraph. The cessation of thought, hibernation, vegetation, everything like that. Had he been one of these tiny helmets, you remember from the very first beginning, tiny helmets mean the tiny little turtles hatching from the eggs. Had he been one of these tiny helmets, he would, at that moment, have flipped over belly up in the sand and simply waited the releasing beak. How do you understand this sentence? Like, it's really important. Is it something like what he would do or what the turtles would like to be like do, would like to have done? Or is it just a simple representation? Let's take a look. Had he been one of these tiny helmets, if he were one of these tiny helmets, he would, at that moment, have flipped over, belly up in the sand, and simply waited the release and beak. So this means that if he were one of these little turtles, he would have been killed. Maybe he's having stress. Maybe he's having pressure in the reality and he feels this way. This is just a representation because it says, had he been one of these tiny helmets, this part gave it away. And another thing says, parenthood had taken him by surprise. So the result is, parenthood had been like very unexpected to him, and maybe this is the main pressure for this person, Paul. The books, the articles, the classes had not prepared him for the intensity at all, intensity of parenthood at all. So he hasn't prepared because it says had taken him by surprise. He wasn't expecting this kind of situation. He hasn't had time to. He didn't have time to prepare reading books, articles, or taking up classes, or preparing him for this intensity of being parent. Snap decisions to be made. Snap decisions mean decisions at the like very moment, like immediate choices, immediate decisions, and also like at a moment's notice, something is already happening. So you have to do something just to solve that. So snap decisions to be made. Everybody looking to him for answers. Everybody else is looking up to him. Like, what would Paul do in this situation? They will simply wait for him to be like the very first one to take that wild path. They hoped that Paul could clear the way for them and they could see some results. No way of knowing if he had made the correct guess because he has nobody ahead of him to be an example. So it means that he doesn't know what would result like from his choices. That's why it says no way of knowing if he had made the correct guess. This is what it means. No way of finding his way back to the main track if he took a wrong turning. If he did the wrong decision, he has no way, he has no idea how to return back to the main track. Last night, he had been half a couple. So is this like, let's try to locate the answer. This one, the balance of his own inclination tilted more towards sleep. Which fact do you think that the simplification of our explanation, our paragraph simplification relates to this topic sentence? The balance of his own inclinations tilted more towards sleep. Which part do you think is relevant to this topic sentence? Let's find out. Okay, so let's go back to the question. His thoughts turned towards going to sleep because. Is it because he knew that he was unlikely to get much in the near future? He had been left mentally exhausted by becoming a parent. Is it like that? Does this idea support the main topic sentence that he thought of going to sleep? Does this have relevancy? Because just because he was being very exhausted, he felt like tiny little helmets, he felt like tiny little turtles being flipped over and being killed for becoming a parent, meaning that he is exhausted. Does this mean relevant to the topic sentence? Or is it number C? He had become wary of his actions being criticized. He's not being criticized, he's being watched. So they have to look at a perfect example to lead their way and to do things ahead of them so that they can follow. So these people are watching Paul. He's not being criticized, he's just being watched. So C is out of the list. Number D, he felt that that was what many of the turtles probably wanted to do. Now, let's think about this. Like, does this have anything to talk about turtles? No, we don't, because it's just a representation. He thinks of himself as like tiny little turtles, and he wouldn't be able to make it to like the sea, which is his destination or something like that. He would just been He would have been like pecked to death by the big bats. So this is what he thinks, and he represents himself as being so. So this is not anything of the turtles wanting to do this. Number C and D totally out of the list. So let's take a look at number A and B. Which one do you think is more possible? He knew that he was unlikely to get much in the near future. Is it this sentence? He was unlikely to get much in the near future. What do we have to do is that let's try to simplify that at the best of our efforts. He knew that he was unlikely to get much in the near future. So this means that for being a first-time parent, no experience, but he was so used to making snap decisions at a moment's notice that uh, he became so good at it. So everybody else was looking at him, watching him, what he'd do. And one little thing, if he got one little thing wrong, then everything is done. Everything is over. So he doesn't have any path to go back to the main track where he has started. So let's think about this one. Unlikely to get much in the near future. If he keeps on failing over and over again in the near future, he wouldn't be able to get much. So this is what it means. But in the sentence, in the paragraph, it only says that he would fail one or two times. If he had been, even if he failed these one or two times, he will be like put in a very difficult situation and everything like that. That's all. But this idea number A doesn't really say anything about like failing if he failed for one or two times. Number A means if he keeps failing multiple times, he will not get much in the near future. So these are not the same. So the final answer left us with number B. Is this answer the same as yours?